What if the woman you married kept a secret so deep, she carried it even into your honeymoon? He thought he knew everything about her, her laugh, her dreams, her past. He loved her fiercely. She was his safe place. But on a moonlit night in the Maldives, when the waves whispered their secrets, she revealed something that shook him to his core. Would love survive what she had kept hidden all along? Before we start the story, leave a comment to let us know which city you're watching from. Like and subscribe to support our community. Your support means a lot to us. Now, enjoy the story as we continue. The sun shone brightly on the day Ethan Kingston married Harper Wells. It was a small ceremony, but everything about it screamed elegance and love. Ethan, a 32-year-old tech millionaire, had fallen for Harper not just because of her beauty, but for the calm strength she carried like an old soul in a young body. They met during a charity fundraiser in New York. She wasn't like anyone he'd met, quiet, kind, and always putting others before herself. He, on the other hand, was used to fast decisions, fast cars, and people who wanted something from him. But Harper looked at him like he was just Ethan, not the man behind a multi-million-dollar empire. As they stood under the flower arch, her white dress gently swaying with the breeze, Ethan felt lucky. He thought, "I've found the one who sees me." But even then, Harper's eyes had a glimmer of something, not sadness exactly, but something weighty. Something waiting. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and champagne. Ethan's best man, Josh, delivered a speech that had the whole room in tears from laughter. Harper's maid of honor, her cousin Lily, spoke about how Harper always put others first, even when it hurt. Later that night, Ethan and Harper retreated to their hotel suite. He couldn't stop staring at her. "We're really married," he whispered. She smiled, nodding, but her voice trembled a little when she said, "Yeah. We are." She had always been a little shy about intimacy. Ethan never pushed. He thought maybe she was just traditional or private. He respected that. Loved that about her, even. He didn't know she was waiting for the right moment. A moment she feared might never come. Their honeymoon destination was a private overwater villa in the Maldives. Blue waters stretched endlessly in every direction, and Ethan went all out, private dinners, sunset cruises, even a surprise spa night just for her. Harper smiled through it all. She was grateful. But deep inside, the truth sat like a stone in her chest. She loved Ethan deeply. But she was afraid that the truth might change how he saw her. They had kissed. They had touched. But each time they got too close, she'd pull away. Soon, she'd whisper. And he'd believe her. On their fourth night in the Maldives, they sat together on the deck, watching the sky turn orange, then pink, then purple. A soft breeze played with Harper's hair, and Ethan reached out to tuck a loose strand behind her ear. "You've been quiet today," he said softly. "I've just been thinking," she replied. "About what?" She looked at him, really looked at him, the man she loved, the man she married. And in that silence, she made a decision. The waves below their villa crashed gently against the wooden stilts as night crept in. Harper and Ethan sat side by side on the deck, wrapped in a blanket as the breeze carried the scent of salt and hibiscus. Ethan reached for her hand and held it between both of his. "Harp, I know we haven't talked about it much, but I just want you to know that I'm okay waiting. I'm not going anywhere." Harper's heart thudded in her chest. His words were kind. Too kind. And they only made the truth harder to carry. "I know," she whispered. "That's what scares me." Ethan tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Harper pulled her legs up under the blanket and turned to face him fully. The moonlight lit her face in a silver glow, and for a moment, Ethan thought she looked like a painting, beautiful but distant. "I've been holding something back," she said slowly. "Not because I don't trust you, but because I didn't know how to say it." Ethan sat up straighter. "Okay. I'm listening." She looked down at their hands, still intertwined. "You know how I've always said I wanted to wait until marriage?" He nodded. "I meant it. But not because of religion. Or tradition. She paused. Her throat tightened. It's because I've never been with anyone. Ever. There it was. Out in the open. Ethan blinked. He didn't respond right away. And Harper rushed to fill the silence. It's not that I didn't have chances. I did. But I kept holding back. I told myself that I wanted the first time to be with someone who truly saw me. Who didn't just want my body, but wanted me. I do, Ethan said, his voice low. I know, she nodded. And that's what scared me. Because the more I loved you, the more terrified I became of messing it up. Of not being enough. Ethan reached out, cupped her face, and gently guided her gaze to his. Harper Wells Kingston, you've always been enough. You've been more than enough since the day I met you. Her eyes filled with tears. Even now? He smiled. Especially now. Thank you for trusting me with this. She rested her forehead against his, overwhelmed by relief and love. And in that moment, on a quiet deck in the Maldives, surrounded by the lull of the sea, the walls she had built for years slowly began to fall. Because love, true love, didn't need perfection. It just needed honesty. The night Harper opened up to Ethan about her truth marked a turning point in their relationship. For the first time, she felt fully seen, not just loved for her beauty or her kindness, but for her vulnerability, too. Ethan's quiet, unwavering acceptance of her secret had broken down walls she didn't even know she had. The next morning, Harper woke before the sun, the ocean still dark outside their glass villa walls. She watched Ethan sleep beside her, his chest rising and falling gently. A small smile tugged at her lips. For once, she wasn't afraid of what the day might bring. By the time Ethan stirred, the sky had turned a warm orange. Harper leaned over and kissed his forehead. Morning, sleepyhead. He blinked, then smiled. Is it weird that I feel like something's changed? It has, she said softly. I feel lighter. They had breakfast delivered to their villa, tropical fruits, fresh croissants, and coffee. As they sat on the deck, legs brushing beneath the table, the ease between them felt deeper. Their laughter wasn't forced. Their silence wasn't awkward. For the first time since the wedding, Harper wasn't wearing a mask. After breakfast, Ethan surprised her with a snorkeling trip. Harper hesitated at first, she wasn't much of a swimmer, but Ethan promised to hold her hand the whole time. And he did. Beneath the water, the world turned magical. Coral reefs in bright colors, schools of fish darting around them like silver arrows, and Ethan beside her, guiding her gently. When they resurfaced, Harper was breathless. That was incredible. You were incredible, Ethan said, pushing her wet hair away from her face. They swam back to the boat, hand in hand, and Harper realized that she wasn't just falling deeper in love, she was trusting herself more, too. For so long, fear had kept her guarded. But now, with each passing moment, her heart was beginning to feel safe in his hands. Later that evening, as the sun set in a fiery blaze across the sky, Harper stood in front of the mirror brushing her hair. She watched her reflection, the soft glow of the candlelit room making her look almost ethereal. Ethan walked in, towel draped around his shoulders, and leaned against the doorway. You know, I've always thought you were stunning, but tonight, you look like you stepped out of a dream. Harper turned, cheeks flushed. You're just saying that. I mean it, he said, walking up behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. I love you, Harper. All of you. I hope you know that now. I do, she whispered. More than ever. They stood there in silence, swaying gently, the only sound the soft hum of the ocean beyond. Harper took a deep breath. Ethan. I think I'm ready. He didn't ask what she meant. He knew. But he didn't move too quickly. He turned her around slowly, held her face in his hands, and kissed her with a gentleness that made her knees weak. Their first night together wasn't rushed. There was no pressure. No expectations. Just two people learning each other in the most tender way. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss, a declaration. When they finally lay tangled in each other's arms, Harper felt tears slip down her cheeks. Ethan noticed immediately. "Hey," he whispered, brushing them away, "did I hurt you?" She shook her head, laughing softly through the tears. "No. It's just... I didn't know it could feel like this. Safe. Loved. Real." He kissed her forehead. "It was always real, Harp. You just needed the right moment to believe it." And under the Maldivian stars, with the sea whispering its lullaby, Harper finally let go of her fear. She had found her place, not just beside Ethan, but within herself. Love didn't just survive the truth. It grew from it. The morning after their first night together, the air between Harper and Ethan felt even softer. There was a serenity in the way they moved around each other, as if something heavy had been lifted. But in the quiet moments between smiles and kisses, Harper began to feel a whisper of something else, the distant echo of her past. They spent the day exploring a nearby island, taking photographs, laughing over coconut drinks, and dipping their toes in warm, shallow waters. Yet Harper's mind kept wandering. She couldn't help but think about how far she had come, and how long she had hidden that part of herself. What else had she buried? As they returned to the villa that evening, Ethan noticed her change in mood. "You've been quiet," he said gently as they walked along the beach. "I guess I've just been thinking," Harper replied, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "About everything." He took her hand. "Anything you want to talk about?" Harper hesitated, then stopped walking. The tide washed up near their feet, cool and foamy. "There's something I never told you," she said slowly. "It's not about me. It's about my mom." Ethan stayed quiet, giving her space to continue. "She raised me on her own. My dad left before I was born. She worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. There were nights we slept with empty stomachs, but she always made me feel like I had everything." Ethan squeezed her hand. "She sounds incredible." "She was," Harper said with a smile. "But she carried her own hurt. She always warned me about men, told me never to trust too easily. I think that's part of why I guarded myself for so long. I didn't just grow up protecting my heart, I grew up afraid to even offer it." "And now?" Ethan asked, his voice soft. "Now, I'm still learning," Harper admitted. "Being with you is helping me see the world differently. But it's not easy to let go of the fear." They stood in silence for a moment before Ethan pulled her into a hug. "I don't expect perfect. I just want you. Every piece of you, past, present, and future." Tears prickled at Harper's eyes, but she smiled. "Thank you for being patient with me. Always." That night, Harper couldn't sleep. The wind whispered through the curtains, and the moonlight painted soft shadows on the walls. She turned to Ethan, who was already asleep, and gently traced the curve of his jaw with her fingertip. "I wish you knew just how much you've changed me," she whispered. She stepped out onto the balcony, wrapping a robe around herself. The ocean shimmered under the moonlight. In the stillness, memories came rushing back, the sound of her mother's tired voice, the way she used to hum to herself in the kitchen, the arguments they had when Harper started dating as a teen. Her mother had never trusted love. And deep down, Harper realized she hadn't either. But Ethan was rewriting that belief. Slowly. Gently. With every small act of kindness. She sat on the lounge chair, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She missed her mother. Missed being able to call her, to tell her about Ethan, to say, "You were wrong, love isn't always dangerous." In the morning, Ethan found her still outside, dozing beneath a blanket. He didn't wake her right away. Instead, he knelt beside her, brushed her hair away from her face, and kissed her hand. When she opened her eyes, she smiled. "Did I worry you?" "Just a little," he chuckled. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yeah. I just needed some air. And space to think." He helped her inside, and as they sat on the bed, Harper took his hands in hers. "Ethan, when we get back home, I want to visit her grave. I want to talk to her. Tell her everything. About you. About us. I think she'd want to know I'm okay." Ethan nodded. "I'll go with you." And just like that, another wall began to crumble. Harper wasn't just falling in love. She was finally healing. Some truths break us. Others set us free. And Harper was learning that sometimes, the past doesn't need to be forgotten. It just needs to be understood. Returning home after the honeymoon was bittersweet. The tropical sun, the sound of the waves, and the long quiet moments with Ethan had carved something deep into Harper, something she didn't want to lose. Yet, stepping back into the rhythm of real life reminded her that healing wasn't something that happened overnight. It continued. The day after they landed, Harper woke up early, her body still adjusting to the time difference. Ethan was still asleep, the soft rise and fall of his chest a comforting sight. She tiptoed into the living room and sat on the couch, curling her knees up to her chest. She reached into her travel bag and pulled out a small, worn envelope. It had been tucked away for years, its edges yellowed with time. Inside was a letter she'd written to her mother on the night she died, but never had the courage to read aloud or leave at the grave. Harper unfolded it, the paper trembling in her hands. "Dear Mom, I don't even know how to start this. You always said I should speak my truth, but I never knew how. I was angry with you for a long time. Angry because I felt like you were too hard on me, too scared of the world for both of us. But I understand now. You weren't trying to break me, you were trying to protect me. I wish you could see me now. I'm in love. And not just with anyone, with someone who makes me feel seen, who listens when I speak, and who never tries to change me. His name is Ethan. I know you would have asked 100 questions about him, but I think deep down, you would have liked him. I'm scared, Mom. But I'm trying. I'm learning that love doesn't always mean loss, and being vulnerable doesn't always mean getting hurt. I miss you. Every day. Love always, Harper." She folded the letter carefully, her eyes misty, and placed it back in the envelope. When Ethan woke up, he found her sitting on the balcony, the letter beside her. "What's that?" he asked, taking the seat next to her. Harper picked it up and handed it to him. "A letter I wrote to my mom. Years ago. I never gave it to her. Do you want to?" Harper nodded. "Yes. I think I'm ready." Later that week, they drove to the small cemetery just outside of town. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows over the rows of headstones. Harper held Ethan's hand tightly as they walked to her mother's grave. Kneeling beside the stone, she felt a lump rise in her throat. The years of silence, the grief she had tucked away, all bubbled up. "Hi, Mom," she said softly, voice quivering. "It's been a while. Too long." She placed the letter on the grave, pressing it down gently with a small rock. This is what I wanted to say to you. And I hope somehow, you can hear it." Ethan stood a few steps back, giving her space but watching with quiet support. "I'm okay," Harper whispered. "I really am. I met someone. He's good. Kind. Patient. You'd like him. And I'm not afraid anymore. Not the way I used to be." A breeze passed through the trees, rustling the leaves. Harper looked up at the sky, letting the wind brush against her skin. "Goodbye, Mom," she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Thank you for trying to protect me. But it's okay now. I'm ready to live my own life." As they walked back to the car, Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "I'm proud of you," he said. Harper smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "I think I'm proud of me too." In that quiet, sacred moment, she felt it, the peace that comes not from forgetting, but from remembering with love. And from that day forward, Harper knew, she wasn't just surviving. She was truly living. The days following Harper's visit to her mother's grave were surprisingly calm. Something in her had shifted, a lightness she hadn't known she was missing. The silent weight she'd carried for so long had eased, and Ethan could see it in the way she smiled now. It was softer, more real. One morning, Harper stood by the kitchen window, watching the morning light spill across the small garden Ethan had started planting before their wedding. The herbs had grown wild, and the tomatoes looked like they were just starting to bloom. "You know," she said, turning to him as he brought her coffee, "I never imagined I'd feel this safe again." Ethan smiled. "Safe is exactly what I want you to feel. Every day." They sat on the patio, sipping their coffee, the quiet stretching between them comfortably. Harper glanced at the garden again. "Did you ever feel like your house wasn't really home?" she asked suddenly. Ethan nodded slowly. "Before you?" "All the time. Fancy walls, expensive furniture, but it was always just space. Empty space." Harper nodded. "That was me too. I moved apartments so often after Mom passed. I told myself it was about work or better locations, but really, I just didn't feel settled anywhere." Ethan reached over and took her hand. "Then let's make this place ours. Not just a house. Let's make it a home." The idea sparked something in Harper. That afternoon, she started going through old boxes, pulling out photo frames she'd never unpacked, books she hadn't read in years, candles that still held the scent of simpler times. She placed a few of her mother's keepsakes around the living room, not in a shrine-like way, but as a gentle nod to the past that had shaped her. Together, they painted one wall a soft teal, Harper's favorite color, and laughed as Ethan accidentally splashed paint on his shirt. They rearranged furniture, added cozy blankets, and even hung fairy lights in the hallway, just because it made Harper smile. A few days later, Ethan surprised her. "I found something," he said, leading her into the spare room they hadn't used yet. He flipped the light on, revealing a brand new writing desk and a bookshelf beside it. "I know you used to write," he said. "I thought maybe you'd want a space again." Harper blinked, touched beyond words. "Ethan, this is beautiful. You're always putting others first," he said, wrapping an arm around her. "I wanted to give you something that's just yours." She ran her hand over the desk, then turned and kissed him. "Thank you." That night, Harper sat at the desk, opened a new journal, and began to write again. The words flowed easily, not just stories, but feelings. Pieces of herself she hadn't been brave enough to express before. She wrote about fear. About love. About learning to trust. And about Ethan. Later, when she joined him in bed, he wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "You feel like home to me." And for the first time in a very long time, Harper believed it. Not just in her head, but deep in her bones. Home wasn't where you lived. It wasn't about walls or roofs or addresses. Home was someone who saw you, completely. Who held your fears without judgment and stood beside you through them. In that little house, under soft fairy lights and the sound of a distant city, Harper realized she wasn't running anymore. Not from the past, not from herself. She was exactly where she was meant to be. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when Harper's past came knocking, quite literally. Ethan had gone out to run errands, and Harper was curled up on the sofa, rereading one of her old journals. The rain tapped against the windows like soft fingers. She was so wrapped in the peace of the moment that the sound of the doorbell startled her. She opened the door cautiously. Standing there was a woman in her late 50s, her coat soaked, umbrella dripping by her side. Her eyes were tired, but familiar. "Harper?" Harper's heart stumbled in her chest. "Aunt Renee?" It had been years. After her mother's death, Renee, her mother's older sister, had tried to take Harper in, but grief and miscommunication had pulled them apart. Harper had run from everything then, including the people who tried to love her. "I was passing through the city," Renee said gently. "And I wondered if I could see you. Just for a minute." Harper hesitated, the old wounds flickering in her chest. But then she stepped aside. "Come in." Renee removed her wet coat and looked around the house. "It's lovely here. You've done well for yourself." Harper offered her tea, and they sat quietly for a while. The silence between them was thick, but not angry. Just careful. I saw your wedding photo online, Renee said after a moment. You looked beautiful. He seems like a good man. Harper smiled softly. He is. The best. I'm happy for you. Renee looked down at her hands. I've thought of you so often. I wanted to come sooner, but I didn't know if I'd be welcome. You would have been, Harper said. Eventually. I didn't know how to face everything back then. Renee nodded. Grief does strange things to people. I wasn't always patient with you. I should have been. They sat in quiet understanding. The years had been long, but the love was still there, buried beneath the rubble of pain. Mom kept your letters, Harper said suddenly. All of them. Even when she was sick, she still read them. Renee's eyes welled with tears. I loved her so much. And I loved you, Harper. I still do. Harper reached across the table and took her aunt's hand. I'm glad you came. When Ethan returned home, Harper introduced them. Ethan, ever gracious, offered a warm smile and made dinner for 3. That evening, as they sat at the table sharing stories and laughter, Harper felt something inside her heal a little more. The presence of Renee, the reconnection, reminded her that healing wasn't always a clean line. It zigzagged, it backtracked, but it moved. After dinner, Renee stood to leave. I should go. But thank you for letting me in. Harper walked her to the door and hugged her tightly. Your family. The door's always open. Once Renee was gone, Harper returned to the living room where Ethan was sipping tea. She sat beside him, curling into his side. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Better than okay. I think I needed that. To face what I ran from. Ethan kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you. The rain had stopped outside. A gentle hush blanketed the world. Later that night, Harper added a new page to her journal. She wrote about forgiveness. About second chances. About the way love sometimes circles back, quieter but stronger. And she wrote about Ethan, the man who stood beside her through every step. The past no longer felt like something chasing her. It was simply a chapter, one of many, that had led her here. Here, in this home. In this moment. With this man. And the walls she'd spent years building? They were finally coming down. Harper stood by the window the next morning, the sunlight now replacing the rain, casting golden lines across the wooden floor. The world looked new, cleaner somehow. She sipped her tea, feeling a calm she hadn't felt in years. Her chest, once filled with the weight of unspoken fears, now carried something lighter. Something warmer. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her waist. Slept well? She leaned into him with a soft smile. For the first time in a long while. Good, he whispered against her hair. Because today, I have a surprise. She turned to face him, curious. What kind of surprise? He grinned mischievously. Get dressed. Something comfy. We're going on a little trip. A couple of hours later, they were on the road. Harper leaned her head against the window, watching trees rush past. There was no anxiety in her this time. No worry about where they were going or why. Just trust. Pure, gentle trust in the man sitting beside her. They pulled into a quiet countryside bed and breakfast. A charming little place, surrounded by a field of daisies and white roses. The owners, an elderly couple named Martha and George, greeted them like family. Ethan had booked it just for the two of them. No distractions. No city noise. Just peace. As they settled in, Harper looked around the room. Everything felt simple and beautiful, linen curtains swaying in the breeze, old wooden floors, and a small bookshelf in the corner. It reminded her of stories her mother used to tell her. A place untouched by time. I wanted us to finish what we started, Ethan said quietly, taking her hand. Our honeymoon was rushed. We got swept up in everything. I want to just be with you. Just us. Harper's eyes shimmered. You think of everything. No, he smiled. I just think of you. They spent the day exploring the surrounding hills, hand in hand, laughter echoing through the trees. They talked about everything and nothing, childhood dreams, silly mistakes, what-ifs. Harper had never opened up so much. She found herself telling Ethan stories she'd never shared with anyone. As the sun dipped low, they returned to the little cottage. Harper lit the fireplace while Ethan prepared a simple dinner. They danced slowly in the dim light after the meal, barefoot on the warm floor, music playing faintly from a vintage radio. Halfway through the song, Harper pulled back slightly and looked into his eyes. Ethan, there's something I need to say. His expression grew serious. Okay. I used to believe I was unworthy of love. That because of what I'd been through, what I didn't have, I couldn't be enough for someone like you. I thought being inexperienced meant I was behind, broken, even. Ethan touched her cheek gently. You're not behind. And you were never broken. I know that now, she whispered. But it took loving you to learn it. He kissed her forehead, then her lips, slow and steady, like a promise being sealed. Later that night, they sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket, watching stars blink into life above them. Harper rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. I want to write again, she said. Not just in my journal. Real stories. About people like me. People who think they've lost too much to be loved. Ethan smiled. Then write, love. The world needs your stories. I'm scared, she admitted. Do it scared, he said, squeezing her hand. I'll be here, always. The breeze kissed their skin, and for the first time, Harper felt her past and present align. No more running. No more hiding. Just love. Just life. The honeymoon wasn't a destination, it was a beginning. And as they held each other under the vast, quiet sky, Harper knew this wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the start of something beautiful. The days after their quiet honeymoon retreat slipped by gently, like soft waves lapping at the shore. Back in the city, the noise and rush still hummed outside their window, but inside their home, a new rhythm had begun, one filled with hope, understanding, and quiet love. Harper woke early one morning, the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. She reached over to find Ethan still asleep beside her, his breathing steady and peaceful. For a moment, she simply watched him, her heart full in a way she hadn't imagined possible. The man who once felt like a stranger was now the center of her world. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb him, and made her way to the kitchen. As she prepared breakfast, memories of the past weeks stirred inside her, the pain, the secrets, the vulnerability she had finally shared with Ethan. It was like a heavy stone had been lifted from her chest, replaced by a delicate, blossoming joy. When Ethan joined her at the table, his smile was warm and full of love. Good morning, he said softly. Good morning, Harper replied, her eyes shining. I was thinking about your idea for me to write again. He nodded. I still think the world needs your stories. Your truth. Harper hesitated, a flicker of fear brushing her mind. I want to. But what if people don't understand? What if they judge me for my past? Ethan reached across the table, taking her hand. You're not alone. You have me. And anyone who truly cares about you will see your heart, not just the scars. Those words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She smiled, feeling braver than she had in years. Over the next few weeks, Harper settled into a new routine. She carved out time each day to write, sometimes pouring her soul onto the page, sometimes struggling to find the right words. But every time she felt doubt creeping in, she'd think of Ethan's steady support and the way he looked at her, with pure admiration and love. One afternoon, while Harper was writing, Ethan came home carrying a small box. I have something for you, he said, setting it on the desk beside her. Curious, she opened it to find a beautiful leather-bound journal, embossed with her initials. For your stories, Ethan said simply. Harper's eyes glistened. Thank you. This means so much." He smiled. "Because I believe in you." That night, as they lay side by side, Harper shared a new piece she had written, a story about a woman learning to love herself after years of pain and fear. Ethan listened intently, holding her hand. "You're amazing," he said when she finished. "Your words have power." For the first time, Harper saw herself through Ethan's eyes, not as broken or lost, but as strong and worthy. Their days grew brighter. Harper felt a courage inside her she had never known. She started to reach out to old friends, reconnecting with people she had pushed away. Slowly, the walls she had built around her heart came down, replaced by bridges of forgiveness and hope. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights twinkle, Ethan looked at her with a soft smile. "I'm so proud of you." Harper leaned into him. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." He kissed her forehead. "We're a team." In that moment, Harper knew their journey was just beginning. The past would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her. Together, they would write a new story, one filled with love, trust, and endless possibility. And for the first time in a long time, Harper believed in happily ever after. The morning sun spilled golden light across the room, warming Harper's face as she lay awake, fingers entwined with Ethan's. Outside, the city was already alive with the rush of cars and distant voices, but inside their apartment, there was a calmness that felt like home. Harper turned to look at Ethan, still peacefully asleep. The months since their wedding had been a whirlwind, filled with revelations, healing, and the slow unfolding of a love that felt both fragile and fierce. She smiled softly, thinking about how far they'd come. Her thoughts drifted back to the first days of their honeymoon, when the walls between them still stood tall, and secrets hung heavy in the air. Now, those walls were gone, replaced by trust and openness. The past, once a shadow she feared, had become a part of her story, no longer something to hide but something to honor. Ethan stirred beside her, his eyes fluttering open. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning," Harper replied, squeezing his hand. He smiled. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as I have in a long time." They lay there in comfortable silence, two souls gradually weaving their lives together. Harper knew the journey ahead wouldn't always be easy. Healing was not a straight path, and life had a way of throwing unexpected challenges their way. But for the first time, she felt ready to face them, with Ethan by her side. After breakfast, Harper sat at her desk, flipping through her journal. Writing had become her sanctuary, a place to untangle her emotions and make sense of her past. Today, though, she paused on a blank page, staring at the empty space. Her phone buzzed, a message from her editor. They wanted to publish her first story. Harper's heart raced. The idea of sharing her truth with the world was terrifying, but also exhilarating. Ethan walked into the room, sensing her hesitation. "What's going on?" She showed him the message. "They want to publish it. My story." He smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "That's amazing, Harper. You've earned this. But what if they judge me? What if it changes how people see me?" Ethan took her hands in his. "You're brave for sharing your story. And anyone who matters will see your courage, not your fear." Harper nodded slowly, drawing strength from his words. "I'm ready." In the weeks that followed, Harper's story was published and received with warmth and support. Letters and messages poured in from readers who saw themselves in her words. She realized she was not alone, that her pain and healing connected her to others in ways she hadn't imagined. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "You've changed so much," he said softly. "You're stronger, kinder, and more alive." Harper rested her head against his shoulder. "I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me the space to heal." Ethan kissed her hair. "We'll keep growing, together." Harper thought about the future, about the family they might build, the dreams they would chase, the challenges they'd overcome. The past no longer held her captive. Instead, it had shaped her into someone capable of deep love and forgiveness. That night, before sleep claimed her, Harper whispered a promise, not just to Ethan, but to herself. She would keep moving forward, embracing the unknown with an open heart. Because the promise of tomorrow was theirs to write. Hey there, story lovers. If you want to add a little more magic, adventure, and heartwarming moments to your day, make sure you subscribe to the Daily Stories channel on YouTube. Join our community of dreamers and seekers of inspiration. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our new story every single day.